Hello, welcome in Guerilla Sports Off Ice. Another episode brought to you guys by our great friends over at Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get a lower interest rate and lower your monthly payment. Go to trustedamerican.com or scan the QR code on the screen to see how much money they can save you today. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, welcome to the show. Monday afternoon. Good, started a little bit later than normal, but hey, that's all right. We're here. Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley, John back there behind the glass today. Megan, how was practice? I didn't make it this morning. You were down at Avs practice, down at Family Sports. How was it? How were the vibes? It's just nice to be back around with the holiday break and all that.
Yeah. Another high vibe practice day. A really vocal locker room, guys talking with each other. Brad, the equipment guy, had his daughter with him. And so
Nice.
she was helping to take jerseys, and the players, I think, unanimously liked Hannah, the daughter, way more. They're like, she's coming for your job.
Yeah.
It was very adorable how sweet they were with Hannah, though.
Well, I love that. Yeah, Brad's a good dude. But probably daughter. Probably
Hannah
better.
was rocking it, though, because she was
Yeah.
taking jerseys to the little laundry bin, and they're like, Brad doesn't even do this for
Yeah.
us.
Oh, I love that so much. Oh, well, nice. It does seem like the vibes are just overall up around the rink for the Avs. And Megan, the title of this show today, and it's a conversation I was having earlier, it just really feels like these one game in 8 days, and it just feels like it came at the perfect moment for this Avalanche team. New players in net, new personalities to be absorbing into the locker room, guys a little bit banged up. Like, it just felt like this was very needed for them to get some time away. And I feel like it's even helped things a little bit around the room. That it's also helped get some guys healthy.
I think health and winning, going into the break, having won some games and coming out of it and getting another win in that Utah game, it's important. They have had so many highs and lows that when they've stacked together a couple of wins, it's been met by something very disappointing. I think the Utah game was an important turning point for them to come out. And despite probably shaking off a little rust and fatigue, still come out with a win. I think that's helping morale a lot.
I'm with you. I think it's helping a lot. And it was just, we were talking this morning about where the Avs currently sit standings wise and how much you would have taken them climbing their way back into third in the Central. You would have taken that if they'd gotten there by the Four Nations break. For them to have put themselves back in this conversation, yes, still games in hand for plenty of teams around them, but for them to have put themselves back in this conversation going into the new year, I think you just have to feel good. Combine that with everything that you just, listed off and injuries and all that. It has helped a lot. Do you have anything in particular you want to get to before I kick us off here talking about Jonathan Drouin, who is expected back tomorrow? Anything before? All right, let's get right into it then. Jonathan Drouin, we were told, you and I were at practice on Saturday. And we were told that assuming that everything went according to plan, we would hear from Jonathan Drouin today and that he would be expected to be back in the lineup tomorrow. When we saw him on Saturday, he was skating with the fourth line. What did you see from Drouin today? And has everything gone according to plan?
Things have gone according to plan, and it's trending in the right direction if you're Jonathan Drouin. He gets put on that second line now. Ross Colton moved to center with Mikko Rantanen. Should be something impressive, though. Imagine getting him up to game speed will take a little bit of time. But he also gets back in the bumper spot on PP1, which is why I think this points to a lot of trust that he is feeling very good right now. I think the nature of this injury, because it is what was bothering him earlier in the season, to have it re-aggravated just kind of in a fluky way was very unfortunate. And so I think there was a lot of caution then around recovery and making sure that he really feels 100%. So there isn't another failed launch again. And again, it was completely fluky. It's not that he came back too soon the first time. He just happened to get hit in a tricky spot and re-aggravate everything he'd been doing earlier this year. So that all looks really good. Having him back on that top power play unit points to they feel really good about where he's at too.
I mean, this has not been a rushed return for Jonathan Drouin. We've seen him on the ice for several weeks now, with some pretty good consistency, has started joining the group again. So yeah, I would hope that they are feeling good about where he's at. Spoke for over 4 minutes this afternoon, Megan, or this morning, I guess. Let's hear from Jonathan Drouin, what he had to say at practice today. His first practice where we, the media, were allowed to talk to him. He's expected back in the lineup tomorrow.
Long time no see.
Yeah.
Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's kind of short. Yeah, like it always is here. But yeah, my family came down and it was nice to have them around.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling?
Good. Yeah, ready to go.
Long process for you?
Yeah, it's been a long year. Kind of play a couple games, get re-injured, the same kind of thing happened, and kind of redo the whole process of all the rehab and treatment, and it's been long.
I was going to ask that. So Jared had alluded to it was kind of the same thing. Like, was it completely the same injury, or was it kind of the same injury?
It's very similar. Yeah, very close to the same one I had to start the year in the first game. And but yeah, nothing really you can do. It kind of sucks just coming back in and kind of doing it all over again times 2. And but yeah, it's part of the game, I guess. And it's stuff you have to deal with. But yeah, to have the same kind of injury was a little bit tough.
How frustrating is it to rehab, come back for just 4 games, and then go out with it?
It's because, like I said, it's kind of times 2. You treat it for 5-6 weeks, treat it for 4 or 5 weeks, and play a couple of games. You think you're fine, you think everything's good. And I was starting to feel good doing my game too, and to kind of live that again and kind of redo the whole thing we did from day one after that first game of the season was kind of painful and discouraging, I'd say.
Missing some time
Yep.
in the year, can you tell me about the balance you had to find listening to your body and not trying to rush back too soon?
Yeah, I didn't feel like we rushed back either the first time when I got felt fine, felt normal. Again, I got hit in the spot where I shouldn't have got hit, which is going to happen in games, but it was kind of bad luck of right in that area where I was treating for 4 or 5 weeks and kind of rehabbing. But yeah, it's definitely tough to kind of do it all over again and kind of do it that whole process with the trainer. That no one's fault here. It's kind of, like I said, it was a bad luck thing, and out of the blue kind of got hit in that right spot and swelled up again.
What's kind of your thoughts on a little bit of a turnover here in the locker room since your last?
Yeah, it's nice to get back in the locker room because when you're hurt, you're not with anyone. I'm just skating along with Toby. He's doing a great job with me. But yeah, it's nice to see the new faces, the goalies have changed a bit of the dynamic in the room, and both of them have played super well. So just watching from outside, it's nice to see, and I'm excited to get back in the room and kind of have to play hockey and feel all the guys again.
It's never nice to have teammates injured, right?
Yeah.
But to rehab and have some guys kind of going through similar things, is that maybe not so isolating?
Yeah, I didn't skate with many people. I did skate with Vince a bit. But yeah, my first time was with Lucky, at least kind of skating together, and we're kind of the same kind of margin of coming back together or similar timelines. So, but yeah, it's nice to have a couple of guys when you come in the morning. Sometimes it gets depressing when the team's on the road for a week and a half and there's no one at the rink except you and the trainer. But they do a great job here to keep the mood good, and we have a lot of good players to kind of rehab with.
Jared already talked about a notable change in this team's confidence since the goaltending changes. Is that something that you noticed when you're?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I'm not on the bench. I'm not on the ice with them. But from the TV standpoint, we look very calm in our D zone. We're very calm with. Sometimes we'll make a mistake, and guys just come back and kind of do their job. They're not trying to fix the mistakes right away. We just kind of let that play happen. And our goalies, like I said, have done a tremendous job. I think you look at Blackwood's rebound control. That's the one thing I look at. He's so big and he kind of swallows pucks there in the crease.
From a team perspective, when the team is performing well like they
Yeah.
have been recently, is it easier to take in your rehab and just focus on you and not be worried like they need me, they need help?
Yeah. I don't really look at the winning or losing. I try to get back as quick as possible. But yeah, it's fun when the team's winning because you know you're going to come back and you guys are going to feel good, and we're climbing up the standings now, and it's what you want to see. But as an injured guy, you're trying to every day feel better and better, and I kind of hope you're going to just start playing games. It doesn't really matter if it's a bad stretch or a good stretch. You want to just help your team.
Sorry, I walked
No, you're thanks.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. Jonathan Drouin, never shy with the media, but definitely a little bit longer than we normally see players go.
I feel bad too, just hitting the injury so hard, but we haven't gotten to see him play very much this year.
I mean, while we were listening to that, Megan, I looked at you and I said, he's played 5 games. He's played 5 games. And this is a guy that, we were all worried priced himself out of Colorado last year.
I feel terrible about that aspect.
Well, see, I was going to
It's
say
probably,
to you, if I'm Chris McFarland, I'm calling like, hey, we said January, we wanted to talk,
yeah,
right?
he just had a baby girl. He has a family.
Well, yeah, I know.
Like, I want him to maximize his value. And
Oh,
so I just feel a little bad that he wasn't able to make a stronger case for this extension, the real one, because he's missed so much time. We saw him do good things the back half of last year, and I wanted him to come out the gate and do those great things.
If it does help you a little bit, he made a lot of money in Montreal. He did very well.
As Eric Lacroix would say, that's a lot of steak dinners.
Yes.
He's had his steak dinners.
But no, all jokes aside, like, you do feel for the person when you see a player bet on themselves, which is what Jonathan Drouin did, saying, I think I can go out and, I'm in a good situation. I can play my well into the contract and, and the term and all that I want. And to have something like this happen where it is very out of his control. You mentioned right before we played that clip, a weird fluky injury to begin with, and then to re-aggravate it in an equally as weird and fluky way. Like you definitely feel for the person just dealing with that. And we are nearly at the halfway point. He's played 5 games.
And that's why I think too, I even had concern about his health and what that projects for the future. But hearing just how weird this injury was and the likelihood that you would get hit in that same tricky spot feels like ribs.
Yep.
Doesn't make me worry about his future in Colorado from that health standpoint. I don't think that he's going to constantly be getting ribbed every night.
Yes, correct. Much needed addition back to the lineup. Jared Bednar mentioned to us a couple days ago that if everything continues to go according to plan for the next 24 hours with Jonathan Drouin, getting him back would put the Avs at missing 3 players, which would be their lowest total all season. You are still without Miles Wood, but I do think that it would be a situation where you can look at yourself and more or less say, this is a healthy group. Because you're down Wood, you'd be down Shillington, and then you'd be down Gabe Landeskog, who I don't know if you count that one anymore.
Yeah.
The day-to-day missing.
And I don't think this is a big deal, but Ivan did miss practice because he's being evaluated for an upper body injury. And so that 4th line does appear to be Anala, Parssinen, and Middlestat.
Yeah.
Not going to panic too much then around Ivan. He's still being evaluated. And I think that he was kind of the odd guy out, especially now with Parssinen being added to the mix.
Right. Ivan, we've talked a lot about him this year. Not that he's been bad recently, but he definitely hasn't stood out in the last couple weeks as much as he was before. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. He's a young player that no one even expected to be
He
here.
surpassed expectation
by a lot.
Valuable experience too, up with the big club, and getting to play as a true center, I think, is huge for his development. So
Absolutely.
No matter what's in store for him next, I still have a lot of confidence in where he's headed. And I think, too, this points to a conversation we haven't really had the chance to have this year, and that's having real lines 1 through 4.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Drouin is supposed to hopefully get that 2nd line going. Jared Bednar has loved this 3rd line. And so that 4th line just has been kind of a mismatch of guys, and they've been very sheltered in minutes. can that start to be more of an impact now with players like Parsonen, Middlestat being thrown in the mix, Anala? It's still a little mixed matchy, but I have a little bit of confidence that it can pose more of a threat than it has all year.
We did get a super chat from Vaguely Sober. Nice touch on the audio animation with a timer. That's a shout out to our girl Andy upstairs. Yeah, Andy's great. She's the one who put that together. I was just telling you, I was like, she's gonna show me how to make those because they're awesome.
They're really nice.
But it is nice having the timer on there as well. Big shout out to Vaguely. Great to see you. Hope you're having a good holiday season. Let's talk about the new addition. I described the Parsonen deal because you trade Andre Pavel. You have picks that you're swapping back and forth as well. Kind of remove those from it. I really did say that it seemed like a prospect swap to me. Parsonen maybe a rung above just pure prospect. Your thoughts on Parsonen, what you saw from him today, and then we'll hear from him as well in just a moment.
I liked Andre Pavel, but I always had a hard time imagining his path to the NHL through the Colorado Avalanche. This is a player that I think had some ways to go in terms of the pace of the game. I think that the motor and the effort was exactly what the Avs are looking for in a depth player. And he was a center option for them, big PK guy. It would have made a lot of sense in those ways, but I worried about the puck skill alongside the speed to keep up with what a fourth line would demand of him in the future, too. He's 24 years old. There's still time. He missed a little bit of time this year due to injury as well. And so, again, it was just hard for me to imagine his path forward through the Avs organization. Parsonen, there is a little bit more of a need that he fills right now, that I think he has more NHL games under his belt, especially dating back 2 seasons ago, and has found his production at the American League level. I just think he makes a lot of sense. And like a Justus Annunen going to Nashville, I think the opportunity opens up a little bit for a Pavel there versus Colorado. So I agree, kind of a prospect swap, and I think it makes sense for both sides.
Yeah, you are correct, though. And this is a bit of a prospect swap. But if you're the Avs, you're getting a prospect who's got some NHL games under his belt and has actually a 25-point season under his belt with the Nashville Predators. I always, Megan, you know this from going back a couple of years doing shows with me. I love a prospect who comes from playing professional over in Europe. If all things are equal, my style, I'm always going to take that prospect over one who's come up through the major junior ranks. Parsonen's a kid who played for TPS Turku in the Liga, same as Mikko Rantanen's team, or that was Mikko Rantanen's team as well. I just like that these are players that can immediately come over and start getting acclimated
100%.
to North American ice and to the style of game over here. Parson's already 23, so that's why I said maybe put him a rung above, traditional prospect. This is a guy that should compete for time in your bottom 6. Not that dissimilar in terms of where they're at in their progression to a Nikolai Kovalenko. In terms of this is a guy who's played professional. You would expect to push for some NHL games, but I'm definitely going to stop shy of saying like this is a set and forget every night NHLer. But it definitely gives you something a little bit more intriguing in the bottom part of your lineup than just another call up,
Right. Like we've had a lot of different names get called up this year, and Pavel being hurt didn't really help his case. I actually think we would have seen him sooner, but that's where I think the immediate impact of Parsonen, it's easy to see through the Avs lens.
In terms of where he's at as like an AHL call-up guy, I would almost say he's almost closer to like a Kiviranta than he is a Pavel who's looking for those call-ups.
I agree.
But not quite to the Kiviranta level. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
It does, because he's struggled in Nashville this year, but it's fair to note that everyone is struggling in Nashville this year.
Right.
I think they're just starting to figure some things out, and that's why even Wedgwood's numbers coming from Nashville earlier this year, don't let it fool you. This is still a reclamation project in a lot of ways, but sure. I just think that you infuse a little bit of the talent and the winning around a player like that, and I think we can get a pretty good NHLer out of it.
I almost wonder. I almost wonder if Jesse Puljujarvi was put on waivers 2 days earlier if the Avs would have just done that.
And I don't have tons of passionate feelings about this, and I would have regretted that a little bit. I think
Not doing-
Parsonen makes more sense than Puljujarvi.
okay. All right.
I don't think both make sense.
I
I
agree.
like Puljujarvi, and I have seen his fit in the Avs before, but I see Parsonen's fit more. I think there's more upside, a higher ceiling. I think I have an idea of what Puljujarvi is in the NHL at this point,
Yep.
and I don't know that it would move the needle so much for me. I don't think he would come and hurt the Avs necessarily, but in the same way that Giovanni Smith kind of had a neutral impact, I'd need to see a little more from Puljujarvi versus Parsonen, who I think has some upside that has not fully been realized yet.
Yep. Parson, I do believe a couple years younger. Yeah, 3 years younger than Puljujarvi.
I still like Puljujarvi. This is an anti-Puljujarvi.
No. But Puljujarvi.
But you're right. I
on
think the
waivers
Avs would have
today.
been interested if it had
Mhm.
happened 2 days sooner.
Yep. And if they would have said, okay, well, if we don't have to give up any assets to get this player in, is that something that's intriguing to us? But to your point, it didn't happen that way, and they've got Parsonen here.
And he was on their radar a week ago. So the Avs have been looking at him. And honestly, I like the relationship that's kind of formed with Nashville. They had interest in Justus Annunen. They got Jeremy Hansel instead. In the end, they still end up with Justus Annunen.
Mhm.
Avs get a Scott Wedgwood out of it. Like, I'm kind of happy with the way these dealings have been. I miss Jeremy Hansel, but I'm kind of happy with the way it's shaken out. So I have confidence in the front office too.
The Avs, this regime, even going back to when Joe Sakic was the GM by title, right? Like they do get into this, like, hey, if we find a good relationship with a team,
Yeah.
we'll go back to that well several times.
I liked Yakov Trenin. Obviously couldn't keep him past that season, but it's been, I can't speak to the Nashville side if it's
Well-
been the same benefit, but it's been definitely beneficial for Avs.
Well, and what's been weird to me about some of the, like the Yakov Trenin one was odd because you ended up needing him. Like that was like that felt to me like they traded him, they like kind of sold off and then ended up getting to the playoffs. And it's like feels like you could have benefited from having Yakov Trenin. And so I don't know. Let's hear from Parsonen. He was at practice today. First time getting a chat with him. Sounds like buddies with Mikko in the off season.
Yes.
Well, let's hear from Parsonen.
When did you learn about the trade, and what were your initial thoughts when you found out it was Colorado?
Yeah, I got a call 2 days ago, like, I don't know, midday after. We had morning practice in Nashville, and then I got home and got the call, and I thought he got traded to Colorado, and then kind of shocked first, like, first trade ever, but I'm so excited about this opportunity. It's a great organization. I know a lot of guys here, like so many Finnish guys, which is unbelievable. So I mean, I'm really pumped.
Yeah, a lot of the Finnish guys, Scott Wedgwood, I guess, does it kind of make it easier? I mean, you only played with him for a month or so, but does it make it easier knowing you have these faces here?
No, I mean, of course, especially like the Finnish guys, like 3 of them live in the same town as I, and we practice together during the summer. So I know them really good. And then Wedge was in Nashville a couple months, and we got along really good. So I mean, they're helping me as much as they can and as much as I need. So I mean, it's good to have guys to kind of rely on.
Is that really comfortable for you, knowing Mikko and having played with him in the summer?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, it's so much easier to come in the group where you know already like at least one guy, but like I'm in a good spot because I know 4 or 5 guys already. So I mean that helps, of course.
What excites you about playing in Colorado specifically?
I mean, I think this is an unbelievable group. This is a team that can go really far, and I'm just excited to get going and get to know all the guys even more. And I mean, it's a great city to play, and it's always a tough place to play as a road team. So I'm excited to meet the fans as well.
What do you know about the system here for the Avalanche? It can be a really completely different overhaul for you, or?
Yesterday when I had my first day, we went over a lot of stuff with the coach, and I mean it's something similar, but then there's something that's totally different. So I mean, it will probably get a couple practices, couple games to get used to it, but I mean it's still hockey, and I can play hockey, so I feel like just go out there and play, and then learn as you go.
If you were scouting yourself, how would you describe your game?
I feel like a reliable two-way player. I mean, I can play winger, center. I feel like I'm good with the puck, like protecting, like on the boards. I mean, like I said, I feel like I play reliable two-way game, and then I can chip in offense as well.
You're going to be the guy with all the dirt on Mikko who can give us the stories, right?
I'll save those for later.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Outside of people you already know, who have been some of the first faces that you've talked to?
Here, yesterday when I came in, Mikko picked me up in the morning, so it's like a 20-minute ride from Cherry Creek where I'm staying at the moment. So I mean, he was the first guy. We had a good chat there, and then I mean, of course, a lot of the guys texted me right after I got the notice that I was traded. So, but I mean, like yesterday, I met almost everybody, and then who I didn't meet yesterday, I met today. So I mean, it looks like a really good group of guys.
How nice is it just to get a practice under your belt before a game? You know, it's been kind of rare here for the team to have practices.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like timeline-wise, this was the perfect time to kind of get traded because I was on the ice here yesterday. We had optional, and then I got a practice in today, and then we play tomorrow. So, I mean, I feel like it's not usual to get kind of go on the ice for 2 days before you play when you get traded. So, I mean, I feel like that was nice.
Is it an advantage to have another Finn on your line with you to start?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great player. I mean, he's played what now 3-4 games now, and I mean, I've known him a long time. We played against back home in Finnish League, so I know exactly how good he is. And I mean, of course, it helps on the ice as well. You can talk a little bit Finnish here and there, but then we have some English guy also on our line, so we can just speak Finnish all the time.
Thanks. Thank you guys. Nice.
Fuck.
Hello.
Ooh, I just yelled fuck right into the microphone. I also feel bad for Casey Middlestat. Megan, you tricked me there.
Baited you, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that was intentional. It feels like I got him. They are collecting. They're making quite the collection of Finns here.
They really are.
5 up front, if my math is correct.
Yeah, like Lehkonen, Inala, Mikko, Parsonen, Kivi.
I was gonna say there is no way you are gonna not remember Kivi after
Hold
all
the phone.
crap that I got last
Saving
week.
the best for last.
Yeah. I believe it's the what's the right way to say this? They have the majority of their forwards are finished.
And they don't have to stop there if they want to claim Puljärvi.
Yeah. They can add one more if they really want. Give yourself that 13th forward if you really, really want. I'm anxious to see what Parsonen brings. He seems like someone that's maybe got a little bit of offensive upside in the bottom part of your lineup here. And again, like this, the other part of this to me is you're starting to see the Abs make some of these moves where it's been really fun and it's been great to see all of the young kids come cycle in and have an impact and find a way to be effective and gain good experience. We're reaching the halfway point here. You've climbed yourself back into a playoff spot. You feel like your goaltending is really moving in the right direction. Let's start building our roster that we feel comfortable and that we trust heading in to the playoffs. And speaking of trust, have you heard about our great friends over at Trusted American Mortgage, Megan? Trusted American Mortgage, our great partners. How would you guys like to get through these last little bit of the holidays here? And you got to act quick without having to make a mortgage payment. Well, go to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you refinance your home and not have to make any payments until February. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. And right now, if you act right now, they will cover the cost of your appraisal. That is a $650 value right there by itself, Megan. Go to trustedamerican.com or scan the QR code up on the top corner of the screen over there to see how much money they can save you today. Also, want to remind you guys about our great friends up at 7 Brew Coffee. They just opened their one-of-a-kind drive-through and walk-up experience up in Firestone, Colorado. And Megan, sounds like things are going well enough already. We might be getting another one even closer to us.
You're
here
joking.
soon. I'm dead serious. That's the hope.
A little dangerous.
I
That
know.
large coffee went down way too
Quick.
easy.
Well, I laughed because you guys posted pictures like, cheers, we're out here. Drinks already empty. I was like, dang, I don't know if you guys just got these or what. Fast and friendly crew waiting to serve you, from rich, bold coffee to refreshing energy drinks, smoothies, teas, and more. 7 Brew has you covered. Over 20,000 flavor combinations available. There's a perfect drink for everyone at 7 Brew. They believe in cultivating kindness with every cup, and their fully customizable menu is just the beginning. Before you hit the road, power up with 7 Brew, their newest location in Firestone, Colorado, and experience the coffee revolution. Let's look ahead a little bit here, Megan, to what the Avs are, like I said, starting to build and starting to put together a lineup that you can tell Jared Bednar will trust a little bit more. They're going to get their first taste of this new look lineup tomorrow against the league-leading Winnipeg Jets. And again, I do think that this move with Parsonen is a small move towards we are wanting to solidify our contender status in the roster that we'll have come the end of the year.
I asked Jared Bednar today about the Sams when Manson was out of the lineup, getting to see Malinsky specifically into second pair role. Kind of, what did you learn about him? Has that changed your view of his upside as a player? And then kind of secondarily, that Utah game was one of his best games in a third pair role, mind you. How can he leverage that opportunity from third pair opportunity to make a case for higher upside in the future? Like, can we have that conversation? Is Malinsky one day a second pair defenseman? And he had a great answer. You should listen to the full interview. But he talked about how there was a little bit of inconsistency when Sam was in that second pair role. And it wasn't bad. It was essentially good, not great. And good doesn't win you championships. That's what he said. And I think that applies to a lot of this lineup right now. They're winning games with a fourth line that isn't necessarily hurting them.
Correct.
Good, not great.
Yep.
And they're winning because of what the guys at the top of the lineup are doing for them, getting good goaltending. But that doesn't win you championships. Having a just good, not great fourth line is not going to get you across the finish line, especially seeing how crucial it was in the 2022 Cup run. And I think that Jared Bednar has referenced that run a bit here lately and what he's liked about the third line in particular. I think in a perfect world, that fourth line actually looks more like what the third line currently is. And so I do think it says a lot about the forward-facing ambitions of the front office to be filling in these holes in the lineup, even though the need doesn't feel dire right now. They're winning games, they're racking up points in the standing, but they still need to be more competitive if we're seriously going to have a Stanley Cup conversation.
Well, and you also, the other part that I like about what it seems like they're doing is start getting these moves made and this roster built the way that you want it to look at the end of the season now.
Yeah.
There is no rule that says you have to wait till the trade deadline to add the players that you want to add. Now, the Avs are in a little bit of a unique situation because there is still the Gabe Landeskog conversation to be had. And when is he back? Is he back, if at all? Is that a player you've got to account for in the regular season? Is that a player that you don't have to worry about till the playoffs? So the Avs still have a little bit of that. But like you and I have mentioned before on this show, guess what, guys? I bet you they have more clarity on it internally than they are letting out into the public.
Right.
So we could also start to see some moves in the not so distant future that address the Miles Wood situation, that address the Gabe Landeskog situation. This to me was, hey, to bring our goaltending in, we got a little bit weaker in the bottom half of our lineup. We want to shore that up a little bit with a prospect that, yeah, you're right, Megan, you liked, but it was hard to see a path for Andre Pavel to being a contributing every night member of the Colorado Avalanche. If you can get someone now who can come in and at least give you a better look at someone who can contribute on a night in, night out basis, I like that move because we are at the halfway point season, more or less. You've got to start gearing up for what it looks like post season.
I like the timing of it too. They can sort of go about things in a way they're more comfortable with versus what's available come the deadline. And so I like that they seek out and scout Parsonen specifically And they'll have a little bit of runway here too to get him acclimated and see what kind of a player they have. Does he continue to make sense going into the deadline? Because that gives them some wiggle room to readdress the bottom of the lineup around that time. I imagine that's going to be the case too. I think that they're waiting for some clarity around health of a player like Landeskog. And similarly, Casey Middlestat. He's in a weird place right now, and I am not shipping him out based upon the tough time that he's having right now.
Right.
But I do think they need to see what's going on there and how he bounces back from it.
Well, and yeah, like you said, I don't think that the Avs are going to trade him between now and the deadline, nor am I at all advocating for them to do that. But yeah, you are shifting officially into this point of the season where we've gotten through the gauntlet of the schedule and the injuries and all of that, and now we are in hard assessment mode between now and the deadline. Like if you're management, right? We are trying to figure out what we have, who do we think can contribute, who do we think is just there, where can we improve, where can we slot guys down to make them more effective and better set up for success. Those are all the conversations that are starting to be had right now. And I think the Parssinen move is the Avs front office. That's kind of their first little chess piece of the second half of the season of this is a move that we think makes our team better today. And that's really all you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Jets come to town tomorrow, New Year's Eve. The New Year's Eve game is always fun. There's always a fun energy in the building. Your expectations for tomorrow, Megan? This is a Jets team that has had the Avs number in the regular season recently. Connor Hellebuck playing very well again. The Jets just kind of defying some expectations preseason. A lot of people kind of thought they would take a step back. They've kind of done the opposite here. Your thoughts on what we might see tomorrow?
Well, it's a team that's clicking in the regular season. I think that's sort of a model for what the Avs want to find by the end of the regular season for themselves. Is Winnipeg does seem to have a strong sense of who they are and what they do well right now, and that's why I think it's rewarding them. I do think the conversation can shift going into the playoffs, and I think there are more cultural or mental hurdles that exist there, but they are having success rightfully because of the way that they are constructed. They're getting goal scoring from the Scheifele's and the Kyle Connors, incredible goaltender from one of the best goaltenders in the league in Hellebuck, a power play that has been clicking. They've just won their last 3, I think 7-2-1 in their last 10, Avs 8-2-0. They're both hot right now. 2 hot teams with a lot to prove, just not even just within the division, but within the West. And I think Winnipeg especially wants to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like dismiss this notion that they can only do this in the regular season. 100%. And so I think that playing against a team like the Avs, who have been there in recent history in winning a cup, absolutely a measuring stick game for both teams. I see a lot of motivation on Winnipeg's side to come in and play their best hockey too.
Have these teams played yet?
I want to say they have.
I'll pull it up real quick.
Winnipeg leads 1-0
while we're talking. This season series.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And look, like they kind of smacked the Avs around last year in the regular season and then looked like a junior team playing against the Avs in the first round of the playoffs. Like you said, they're definitely going to be looking to push back on that. The only thing of note, they will be coming in on the second night of a back-to-back. They are playing at home in Winnipeg tonight. Not a quick flight from Winnipeg to Denver. They'll be getting in late. It's a little bit of an earlier start tomorrow. You want to see the Avs jump all over them, kind of like, what we saw. Who was it that they got on the second night of a back-to-back?
Anaheim.
Thank you. Yes. You want to see the Avs replicate that again. And going back to what we were just saying about the moves that they're starting to make, the personnel they're bringing in, kind of getting done with the call-ups, which I don't say is a bad thing. You want to see them start acting like a cup contender as well.
And to your point, they got Seattle on the second leg of Seattle's back-to-back.
And
I think that's what you were actually saying.
Yes,
is they want to capitalize on a tired team like they did Seattle. So
correct.
My bad.
No,
I led you down the wrong path.
You're good.
But I agree with that completely. I think Chloe, one of her New Year's resolutions for the Avs was to string together a better home record.
Mhm.
And I also think sending off the last game going into the new year with a win in front of the home crowd, and you've got a team coming in on the second leg of a back-to-back, I really want them to play with pride.
I wasn't going to talk about this, but as we start to wind this show down here, I do just want to ask you, Casey Middlestat was out on the fourth line today. Just your thoughts on they're trying something different to try to get Casey Middlestat out of this slump. We've heard from Casey on it. We've heard from Jared Bednar on it. They've tried moving his line mates around, plugging him in with different guys. Now they're saying, go grind it out. Go move your feet and create your own opportunities to see if that works for him. And I get it. If you're Jared Bednar, you got to try something different, I guess.
I have mixed feelings because I agree with the need to change the second line. And I think Jonathan Duren is what that second line could use to get jump started right now. But what I don't love is that this line specifically Middlestat's moving to is so new. You've got Inala, who's played very few NHL games to his name with an NHL debut this season, and Parsonen, completely new to the F system. Now, on one hand, that can just really motivate Casey to, I don't know, be the leader of that line and kind of force him to be the driver of it as a result. But I think that he also has his work cut out for him as a result of that too. Like, I would have loved to see Middlestat working with like an O'Connor, especially if moving the feet is what he needs to do. O'Connor kind of has that effect on players that he works with on a line, like a Newhook. I think back to Newhook. I think some of the best versions of Newhook I ever saw were playing with Logan O'Connor. And that's maybe where I'm at with Casey Middlestat, is I think he just needs to kind of absorb, like the little hockey chameleon that he is, some of those blue collar habits, and that includes moving his feet. And I hope that he can do that. You know, Ira Inanna has speed, and so I think that line's going to play with pace no matter what. But it's going to really be in Casey's hands. And so he's got a lot of support around him. I think I've seen mixed feedback on how people interpret Jared Bednar's recent comments about him, and I personally view it as very supportive. This is a coach who has so much faith in what Casey Middlestat is capable of, and he makes mention of how much faith players have in Casey Middlestat, and so I don't doubt that he is the support of his former line mates like Mikko Rantanen and Ross Colton to get back up to the second line player that I think he is still. And so I think he has a lot of support around him. I know that maybe some of the feedback has felt harsh, but he's a professional and he's played for some difficult Buffalo teams. I have to imagine this is a different kind of personal challenge for him.
100%.
And I'm excited to see how he handles it. You know, the Buffalo game is coming up on the calendar, and I really want, before then, but especially by then, for it to be a reset from the last time he was in Buffalo. And it kind of felt like when things really took a turn for the worst for Middlestat.
When we thought that was going to be what was going to pull him out of it. And
right.
It got way
It
worse.
was actually worse.
Well, and for me, what I like about putting him on this line that he's on, to me, the best we've seen from Casey Middlestat was early when he was playing purely on instinct. Go out there and just compete and play. And you're going to be with guys that you haven't played with before. And you're going to be in a new system. Go out there and just play your game. And I want to see if maybe that's a little bit of what he can do. He's going to be out there, to your point, with Inala, who's still trying to keep up at the NHL level, and Parsonen, who's not familiar to the systems. Guys aren't always going to be where he's maybe expecting them. And he might have to improv a little bit. And I think that's maybe when we've seen Casey Middlestat at his best. I wonder if he's overthinking a little bit right now. And he's gripping the stick a little bit too tight because it's not going, and he's trying to do what he's supposed to do. And he's trying to do what the system tells him to, and it's just not quite working. And I want to see this kid go out and play his game. Be the player that we saw Casey Middlestat being earlier this season. That was creative and great vision and, not afraid to attack the puck and wanted to play with the puck on his stick. Be the player that we saw in the playoffs last year that embraced physicality and creativeness and playing below the goal line and distributing. That to me is all stuff like he doesn't look like he wants the puck right now. And when a player like Casey Middlestat, his skill, his talent, you want him wanting the puck. You want him to be wanting to get after it. And I think by putting him on this bottom line with a couple guys that are going to make him a little bit uncomfortable, it's go out there and be Casey Middlestat. Stop worrying about who your wingers are. Stop worrying about the system for a minute. Not altogether, for a minute. And just go out there and play. Play the way that you did when you first got to Denver, and that was what we told you to do. You're going to get some easier matchups. Go out there and walk a couple guys. Let's see a forehand, toe drag, backhand, upstairs on Connor Hellebuck. Like, let's see it. That's what you're here to do, and just get a little bit of that juice going back.
He looks like a player who is afraid of being noticeable in the wrong ways, and so he's made himself unnoticeable. And I think you've got guys on the fourth line who are trying to make a good impression, and so their intent is to definitely be noticeable, especially with limited ice time. And so I think Casey Middlestat has to get comfortable with being perceived, because I think he was afraid of making mistakes. And so he went from shooting the puck, but maybe not the best shot selection, to just not doing anything with it any longer. So I also think he is being over-consumed with the feedback too. Like, I think he's thinking about it too much and trying to implement all of it, and it's just going too harshly. And so, to your point, I think he needs to, without abandoning everything that he's been told, try to quiet that, let it be background noise, fade to the background as much as possible, and to your point, operate off of instinct.
Well, and there's someone here in the chat saying, honestly, Casey was playing really well when he had a carousel of teammates. Go back to the start of the year. He had different line mates every night.
Like Richie and Kovalenko.
Right. And he was producing. He was fine. And you do wonder if that goes a little bit back to what we're talking about here. He was just like, well, I don't have time to get used to these guys, so I'm just going to dish the puck and I'm going to make swaggy little plays here and there. And again, I think you make an excellent point of you're being put with two guys who are going to do everything they can to get noticed. Don't stand out in the wrong way among these two guys.
And don't be a wallflower.
Right.
Don't be a background character on your line. You're supposed to be kind of a standout.
Yeah, you're supposed to be the main character.
Main character energy for Casey Middlestat.
Big time tomorrow. All right, I'm going to end it with this, and it's a grievance that I was already airing out to you earlier. So we'll be back at it tomorrow with another show. We'll have more to preview on the game, so I don't want to go overboard talking about tomorrow night, because we'll get into that tomorrow on the show. This Winter Classic, man.
You're so upset. It's like, is it a new topic, or is it still the outdoor game?
I'm just so annoyed because I've talked about on here recently that the NHL does such a terrible job marketing marquee events, or even not even marquee events. When they play games, they have day games on random little holidays here. Like, the NHL just doesn't do themselves any favors. Here you've got this huge marquee event that you can, they've tried to scale back on the outdoor games to bring the specialness of the Winter Classic back. And yet, here we are seeing a retread of the Chicago Blackhawks and St. Louis Blues in the Winter Classic. And the only thing that's changed since we last saw this exact matchup is that the two teams have gotten worse. Like, these are two entertaining teams at a repeat venue in a repeat matchup. And then everyone's going to ask the question on Wednesday morning of, why are the Winter Classic ratings down? These games maybe just don't work anymore. It's like, no, people just don't care anymore. Like, the Blackhawks are so bad. They're so bad. Connor Bedard is having a down year. The St. Louis Blues are struggling to keep their head above the water of relevancy. They've missed the playoffs multiple years in a row. I just don't get why the NHL continues to do stuff like this.
It's frustrating because we talk about the growth of the game
Yes.
and how much we are motivated by that. And so the criticisms are coming from a place of just wanting hockey to reach more people. And I'm very supportive of the Winter Classic specifically. Like, you start talking to me about the Stadium Series branch-offs, and I think they're trying to do too much at once a little bit there. I like kind of the specialness of the Winter Classic following Christmas. And I think it adds value to the cities that they're hosted in. It drives revenue, tourists. It's just a big event, a big attraction. But to your point, that's where they miss the mark a little bit, is a retread. in terms of location instead of tapping into a different city to be the host and benefit from those things that I just mentioned
Right.
and get those local fans, that base, hyped up and involved, I think is a little bit of a miss. You know, it's still leaving things on the table. And that's where I think NHL gets in its own way is there's good parts in this idea. They should do the Winter Classic.
Yes.
They just should make it a little new each time so that new people can enjoy it.
Well, and not only that, but like make it teams that people want to watch. This will be the 6th time the Blackhawks have played in the Winter Classic.
Like if you could have done it this year anywhere, what 2 teams and what city?
Well, so here's my thing with outdoor. Have you ever been to an outdoor game?
Yes.
Okay. They're amazing spectacles. The viewing sight lines at the stadiums, it's not great. It's not a great in-person event. What I think they should do with these is take a cue from what they did at Lake Tahoe a couple years ago. And what baseball has done at the Field of Dreams is they've made them small, intimate venues for in-person viewing, but they are made for TV events and they're made to be photographed and made to be clipped and made to have these great scenic views. I think they should start doing them at more iconic locations and not worry about putting 80,000, 40,000 butts in seats and really market them towards it being a big television event. Make it the only game of the day, build the hype around it, put it in cool locations, put it on scenic backdrops, and play it against relevant, exciting teams. What I would have loved to see them do, and I know they did it once, I believe back in like 2010 or 2009, I thought it would have been fun to have an Ovechkin and Crosby Winter Classic again. And you can still do that next year. But I thought that would be fun. It's kind of like a one last go outdoors, these 2 teams. Let me actually, do you have an idea for teams that you would want in it?
No, that's why I asked actually. I was like, well, to me, all teams I can find for the most part something exciting about them that I enjoy. I think you know how I feel about St. Louis. I just don't love St. Louis Blues, the team specifically. Nothing against the city of St. Louis.
You know what I would have done? And I know it's a logistical issue. I would have done the 2 Florida teams. It's one of the best rivalries in the NHL right now. And you've got Florida finally coming off a Stanley Cup. And even last year when you would have needed to announce it, they had just gone to the Stanley Cup final. And like I said, I know there's some logistical weather issues with that. But those are 2 teams that I think would have been fun to see in a Winter Classic. I would have maybe, and I know the Utah stuff kind of came about late, I would have maybe tried to get Utah in there. That's an organization that has never been able to do one.
Oh yeah, I would have loved Utah, Colorado, but that one feels like I'm seeing it through such Avs specific glasses because to me that's super interesting. I don't know if it commands the same attention league wide, but to me it's interesting.
I loved when they did Seattle and Vegas last year, kind of like the expansion cup, if you will. Like those are just, there's been a lot of teams that have done it to this point, which is great, but I think you could find better ways to do it. Maybe even neutral site venues, and it's the previous Stanley Cup final. And you put the 2 Stanley Cup finalists.
I like neutral site and then invite the PWHL.
Well, you can invite, we've been on shows together. We've talked about all different types of celebration of the game things that the NHL could do surrounding all-star games and outdoor games and stuff like that. But, and if because they've already kind of broken from the tradition of that the Winter Classic is for American teams and the Heritage Classic is for Canadian teams, put Toronto and Montreal in the Winter Classic. And again, put it in New York City in a huge venue in Central Park. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think they should do. Bellagio Fountains, Central Park, the Bean in Chicago, up in Vail, things like that. Like that's where I think the NHL should be doing these types of games. Times Square, like use some of these amazing iconic venues that we have all over the country, like they did in Lake Tahoe, and drop some cool games there and make it 5,000 people that can get tickets to come and watch it. And they're all real close and it's small and it's primarily a made for TV spectacle because that's what they are. And they're just shoehorning 40,000 fans into the arena. And only 5,000 of them have good sight lines anyways.
I think if they do make it a smaller venue, they have to find some way to make it accessible to some people. Like, I think the ticket prices would go through the roof and it would only be accessible to the upper echelon of society. And that would make me a little sad because it feels like the part about playing on an outdoor lake is outdoor as opposed to the indoor ones.
Right.
Is the old time hockey feel. And I just feel like that should still be accessible to the people who grew up playing on frozen lakes. And so I don't know, like just maybe have season ticket holders get some kind of priority and some. This is not the level of detail we needed for this.
No.
But I want it to be accessible to the people.
Well, because it's talking about overall improving the product that they are just continuing to run out there. And I think what you're bringing, because like truthfully, this outdoor game at Wrigley Field is going to be too expensive for most people. You know what I mean? So it's
I'm sure
if you're already pricing people out of these types of events, well, then do them in a way that is more exciting for people to want to tune into at home and drop a rink somewhere. Again, I think that the Field of Dreams thing that the MLB is doing is one of the best things they've done because they take it to this small little ballpark. And I know there are, a lot of the seats are corporate tickets but you do have small factions.
It's inevitable.
Right.
You still need to generate money from the event.
Right,
so I'm not saying ban the rich.
But no, I get what you're saying. Like, just make sure that there's, 1,000, if you 4,000 tickets, make sure there's 1,000 for each fan base that season ticket holders can tap into type thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I would like to see them do. We have someone who says a Winter Classic of Avs Oilers. Sure. Again, play on some of these.
The league's, hottest players.
Right. The league's biggest names. That's what these used to kind of be, was these are the teams that people want to see because they're the best teams. That was why people kind of shrugged their shoulders with the Blackhawks. I was like, well, what do you want from them? They're winning cups every other year. We're so far removed from that, and they've been in 2 Winter Classics since their last, like, any bit of relevancy. And it's like, okay, we got it. We're done with this. I don't know how these jersey manufacturers have more throwback jersey ideas for the Blackhawks at this point.
I have to imagine the base for Chicago specifically is perfect for it and is hungry and eats it up every time. And so I want to shout out the Chicago Blackhawks fans for probably being super endorsing of this and making it worth the league's while each time. I would just like to see a little variety, but I don't want to strip Chicago of any and all future outdoor games.
To your point, this will be the last thing that we're going to get out of here. To your point, like, they go back to those teams because they know that the fans will show up.
Totally.
So that's why my suggestion is, well, stop making it so much about fans needing to show up and find a way to make these better marquee events.
And find out what other fans will show up.
Right. And
I bet Utah, I actually have no idea. They seem passionate. I don't know.
Right. Well, and like new fan base. And if you made it where, because like, here's the other thing. The Winter Classic starts like 20 minutes before the Avs game starts. And so it's like, my original proposal coming out of COVID was that the league should have adjusted back their schedule and used COVID to their advantage. I think the NHL should start the season on January 1st with the Winter Classic and run it through September and award the Stanley Cup in late September. And then you can own the summer when it's just regular season baseball and your end of season and playoffs are ramping up. And then you can stop competing with the NFL. Because the NHL is terrified of going head-to-head with the NFL. Understandably. So if you ran it January through September, you wouldn't really have that problem.
I think I've shared how I feel about it. I have mixed feelings because of players with families whose kids are off from school in the summer months. And I just don't know if they like structure their lives around that time with family very specifically.
But then you'd be off through the holidays.
Like a couple of weeks. 2 weeks.
No,
two and
I
change.
meant the players. But yeah.
Yeah. Their kids are in school all day.
Think about baseball players, though. They only play in the summer. The only time they're busy.
They chose that.
See. All right. We did get one more super chat here. And I wanted to try to translate it before I.
Happy New Year
Oh, yep.
of hockey.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Day of hockey and Jesse. I don't think Dama is.
Oh, Dama. It's me. It's like it's some kind of title to me, I think.
Happy New Year, happy hockey, happy all of it. I really wanted to get this one.
Lady of hockey.
Okay. Happy New Year, hockey lady and Jesse. Ah! I love that. That was great. Okay. Let's get out of here. We'll be back at it tomorrow. She's Megan. I'm Jesse. Any final thoughts?
No,
that's it. John behind the glass. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Every day. We'll be back at it tomorrow, so I'm not going to wish you a happy new year quite yet. We'll do that on tomorrow's show. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.